Mr. Oglesby, your comments, please. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Madam Chair, Senator Cantwell, members of the committee and staff. I'd like to actually start by introducing the chairman of my board at the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, Eric Lente, and our new chief engineer and chief executive officer, Mike Hammond. At the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, we irrigate approximately 65,000 acres in the Middle Valley around the Albuquerque area. And I'll start with a little bit of good news. New Mexico has emerged this year from the worst drought in history. Half of the state is considered to be out of abnormally dry conditions, although half of the state still is in abnormally dry conditions. I'm very pleased to be here talking about the New Mexico Drought Preparedness Act, and I'm very grateful to Senator Heinrich and Senator Udalls for sponsoring this bill. It has a lot of good ideas in it that we've been talking about for a long time. The first that I'll touch upon is the water leasing program. This is a voluntary program that we contemplate establishing in our district. And we have been talking about this for about 15 years in our valley. And to be quite frank, our Conservancy District has opposed a voluntary leasing program because we saw it as a capitulation to the environmental community. We now realize that we need to give our farmers every tool in the toolbox so that they can survive times of drought and frankly, just times of hardship. If a farmer needs to take a year off to take care of his sick wife, a leasing program will give him an opportunity to make some income off of his water and return to farming rather than just sell out. And that's important to us to keep these farms in production in the future after times of hardship. It's also a matter of recognizing that these are private property rights, and it's not our business to tell our farmers what to do with their water. We think that they're smart enough, and we certainly respect them enough to open the door to this program, and we appreciate the help that this bill gives us in terms of technical assistance and in terms of financial assistance, although we have committed to taking the lead on this program. So we're not looking for a handout, we're just looking for a little guidance. Some examples from around the West could help us move this forward. The bill also touches upon water conservation, primarily focusing on metering. You cannot manage what you do not meter. And we could be doing a lot more metering in the Middle Rio Grande and all across New Mexico, and this bill does affect all of New Mexico. Forgive me if my testimony is a little Middle Rio Grande centric. There's some other interesting aspects of it. We actually plan on realigning the Rio Grande itself, moving it out of its existing channel where it's awfully high and we're losing a lot of water to seepage. There are sections that we need to move to lower parts of the valley. This is dramatic, but it's been done before and we need to do it again. We also need to do this because we have an odd situation where we have a national wildlife refuge that often is irrigating when the river right next to the refuge is dry. By doing some infrastructure changes and moving the river, we think we can help to alleviate that strange situation. Again, the district is partnering closely with our federal agencies on this, and in fact, we've committed $500,000 a year of our own money to doing metering and efficiency improvements. So we're walking hand in hand with the federal government on this one. An interesting portion of this bill is the peak flow restoration. We have heavily modified the Middle Rio Grande, and at the top of our valley we have Cochiti Dam, and Cochiti has stopped the spring flows from coming down. The Rio Grande is a snow melt driven river, and those high pulse flows used to trigger the spawning of our endangered silvery minnow, and the overbank flows would reinvigorate our bosque. That's what we call the riparian forest in New Mexico that several endangered birds rely upon. Without those peak flows, I believe we will not be able to recover the silvery minnow, and we will lose our riparian forest, or at least the wonderful riparian forest we have today. We need to operate pulse flows out of Cochiti. We've done this for the last few years. We've seen success from this, but we need the Corps of Engineers to have a reauthorization of Cochiti Reservoir. We've been doing this under deviations, and so we're asking for 5 years of deviations in the future and then a reauthorization of Cochiti. We do want to work very closely with Cochiti Pueblo and Santa Ana Pueblo, who are directly impacted by this, and so we are walking hand in hand with them as well. Again, our district is not just looking for a handout here. We've committed $150,000 a year of our own money to look at the science behind these aspects. The other very important, and if you'll allow me just another moment, Madam Chair, a very important concept in this bill is the reservoir study. We have 7 reservoirs in our Rio Grande system, each with independent authorizations and each with specific functions. So our hands are tied in how we can coordinate the management of those reservoirs. We'd like to analyze how we can use all these reservoirs in a conjunctive way, how we can maximize and optimize the operations of these reservoirs. We think that there are opportunities that we're missing because of the federal legal restrictions on how we operate these reservoirs. So I'll just jump to the end and give you what I consider to be just a little bit more good news. We are working together in New Mexico, and that has not always been the case, and I'll be honest, it's not always pretty, and it's not always fun, but we are working together, and I think we are moving away from what has been 15 years of fish versus farmer, and are realizing that now is the time when it is the fish and the farmer versus changes in precipitation, urbanization, and so we're very pleased to see that our senators are seizing this opportunity, that we're taking advantage of the crisis of the drought so that we can survive this drought and that we can thrive through the next drought. So thank you very much, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Oglesby. It's always nice to end the panel on a little bit of good news there, so I appreciate you sharing that with us. And you listen to the 6 of you and the comments on the various pieces of legislation that we have in front of us. I think it's very clear we do have a different approach that is reflected through the Senate bill and then the House bill. But there are some areas of clear agreement, and I think it's always good to recognize that if we're going to build the legislation that's going to be necessary to address the challenges, and I believe very firmly that we must define this legislation and work to advance it.